cents short of a dollar, the show where we give our 2 cents and keep it 100. We're your hosts. That's Motiz, and I'm Rue. And today I want to talk about what some people are calling the fight of the year, the aftermath of the Chris Eubanks Jr. Conor Benn bout. The buildup was crazy. The fight happened. Eubanks Jr. was successful. I had Conor Benn, you had Chris Eubanks Jr., so kudos to you for getting that right. But one, do you think it was a fight of the year? And were you actually impressed with the fight, even if you don't think it was a fight of the year?
It's definitely fight of the year for me. I don't think it's close. Like, I'm gonna keep it a buck because you gotta really think like, and we're from the US, right? At least me and you. But we've, been watching UK fighters for a while now and just exploring the lore between Chris Eubank Sr. and Nigel Benn. Sr. won the first one, and it was a draw the second time around, even though most people kind of consider Nigel Benn the winner of the second and thought he was robbed in the second bout. But now their sons, years later, come about and they face each other and they put on performance that to me was fireworks from the first round onwards, right? And even kind of the relationship between Chris Eubank Jr. and his father, and to see Senior in the car last minute, it was like, and people are calling it kind of like a WWE, like a script in wrestling, and just the excitement there, and then the ring walk, even kind of Ben's ring walk, everything from start to begin, even with the egg slap, the build up, if you encompass everything, including the fight, hands down fight of the year. You can argue this might be up there, one of the best fights of the decade, to be honest with you. I'll go as far as say it's one of the best fights from start to finish of the decade, man. That's how good of a fight is. Now, with that being said, though, there are some, and I'll let you get to it, but in my opinion, I felt like this fight, it's a bittersweet feeling because this fight could have went a completely different direction on both ends. But I feel like someone in this particular fight dropped the ball, but I'm not complaining because it was a phenomenal fight.
Yeah. So I do think it's up there. It was like intense fight, right? Start to finish. Like you said, the build up and everything, the entire event, the whole spectacle is probably what takes it over the top, right? I'm just thinking about fight of the year. I forgot the name name of the guy Pitbull fought, but that fight was crazy too. It was like literally no defense, all offense, just slugging. Think about that might have not been this year. It might have been last year. I'm thinking about Raymond Ford. Remember that fight where he was down?
Yeah, when Nick Ball, you're talking about when he stopped. I think you're talking about Nick Ball was a fight of the year too, though. Raymond Ford was given. He had some, but the one that he came back and won the title, that was last year. And then
that was tough.
Yeah, that was tough. But the one with Nick Ball too, oh my God, that one was a girl fight. But that was also last year too.
Okay. So, but yeah, like you said, the entire event, when you from start to finish, the promo, the build up, the drama, like this has to be like the best thing I've seen this year so far. It was crazy. And I would say both fighters didn't disappoint in the sense of they gave us a good fight.
Yes.
Was there disappointing things about the performance? Yes. However, I think when this fight first came about, most of us sensible people, I think we had Chris Eubanks Jr. as a clear favorite, right?
Right.
And I know I kind of changed my prediction last minute. And I know we spoke about it on the phone. We didn't do a video, but I actually changed my prediction before the weigh-in. So it wasn't even after the weight drain thing, right? I flipped a couple days before and told you I got Conor Benn, right? But then the weigh-in happened and I'm like, okay. And then you started saying, I don't know. However, I think after what we saw, we needed that drama from the weigh-in to lessen the gap.
Yes.
Right? For it to be the great fight that it was. Because honestly, Conor Benn's coming up to one weight division, whatever you want to say. He was coming up to the weight, right? So he was already at a natural disadvantage. Chris Eubanks has been in bigger bouts than he's been in. I don't think Chris Eubanks has ever won a title, but he's fought for a title.
Yeah.
So we needed some things to lessen the gap to give us this kind of a great fight. Because if it was a one-sided affair, build up or not, then it would have just kind of been whack. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, man. It really, because when I started seeing how he was losing weight, how weight drain he looked, I'm like, oh man, I'm like, Conor, this is your best chance. to beat Chris Eubank Jr. This is your chance, and you got to take it, right? Because we know when fighters are weight drained, they're more susceptible to certain punches. They don't really have their legs underneath them, and it showed in the fight, right? Especially when you seen kind of like how Chris Eubank was fighting. You could tell opening round, his jab wasn't really stiff. It just didn't have blistering speed. It didn't have any like whip to it. You know, you could just see like he didn't really have any to it. And I'm not gonna lie, Benn was coming over the top. He was predicting his jab. Every time he jabbed, boom, he just came over the top with the right hand.
Mm-hmm.
Buckled Chris Eubank early too,
Yeah.
had him hurt. You know, I'm like, oh man. In my head, I was texting, I was like, yo, bro. And the coach in the corner was telling Chris Eubank, yeah, keep using the jab. And I'm like, bro, why you keep using the jab only? You keep getting clipped, you know. And I think as the fight progressed, I'm not gonna lie, Chris Eubank kind of took it to Conor Benn. Like he took it because he didn't have no more legs to kind of just sit and box with him. So he was like, yo, the only way I'm gonna be able to fight and sustain this energy, I gotta kind of just put it on him. I gotta lean on him. I gotta start throwing punches and combinations. And I ain't gonna lie, once we started seeing him throw punches and combinations, he started finding a lot more success. The head movement from both fighters was pretty good, but I feel like Conor Benn was just way too predictable, man.
Yeah.
He had an opportunity to really get Chris Eubank out of there. Like it was a dead man walking. Chris Eubank, I'm more impressed by because he fought off of just pure will at a certain point. You know what I mean? So it was really it was a phenomenal fight, but definitely I feel like Conor Benn in that fight, he showed heart as well too, because he almost got stopped late. It was a point in time, I believe it was like round 10 or 11, where he was just getting buckled, and but he fought through it. You know what I mean? And I was surprised with Conor Benn's conditioning because he was just loading up shots, just loading up, and he was able to last all 12 rounds. But I feel like he could have done a lot better. You know what I mean? He could have done significantly better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I don't like to be this guy, but in this case, I think this is more of a case situation with all things given of Conor Benn losing the fight than Chris Eubanks winning the fight. And I don't want to take it away from Chris Eubanks Jr. because his 12th round was almost reminiscent of, remember Loma and Tio's 12th round, where they were kind of just going blow for blow, but Tio was getting the better. That's kind of what Chris Eubanks Jr. did to Conor Benn in the 11th and 12th, though.
Yeah, 11th and 12th, which is huge.
Yeah, but like Conor, he was impressive and disappointing at the same time. Like the head movement was really good. The footwork, how he would just, like kind of like step out, get the angle on. I'm like, okay, like you said, come over the top. The movement was really good, but nothing was behind it. So he would make Eubanks miss, create the angle, but then not capitalize and fire anything. It's like he would get an angle on him and then step back and reset. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like if I'm moving, I make you miss. Boom, now I get on the angle. I got you off guard. I should throw something. But then he would just like back up and reset. And I'm just like, that was like super frustrating to watch, right? His, like you said, super predictable. His attack always started from
no setups. Yep.
Too far out. And it's like, I get it, like Eubanks has the longer arm length, you don't want to be at bay for the jab, right? But when you saw the jab was kind of lazy and he was kind of leaving it out there, like for me, I would have took a step, maybe half step in, start my attack from a little bit closer. Because if he did that, he'd have probably landed way more big shots. And then the final thing that I thought was super disappointing about his performance, a guy is depleted like that and you don't start going to the body until late.
Yeah. He had some hellacious body shots, but they were like in the middle of the fight, late in the fight. You got to start that early. And then on top of that, it's crazy. I ain't gonna lie, Conor Benn, you were the person that was supposed to use the jab. Fight behind the jab. You're the person, especially against a dead man walking. You know what I mean? Yeah, man.
Just because you spar with someone doesn't mean you're going to take something from them. But I'm shocked that, he had a sparring session with Sean Porter, and maybe he did pick his brain, but I don't think so. Because Sean Porter went on record, on his show saying, like, come with me. Let me get you right for the next fight, which means maybe they just sparred. But it's just like Sean Porter was a guy who not the most impressive physique in terms of height and length, right? Built like a football player, but in terms of height and length, not the most impressive physique. But he was able to work behind that jab and get to where he wanted to kind of make the fight ugly the way he wanted, like where he found success. So like Conor, I just think it's a lot of wasted movement, man. Like I said, making Eubanks miss a lot, but not coming with anything. the same attack every time, leaping from so far out. If Eubanks wasn't so depleted, he'd have probably stopped them because he'd have, Eubanks has very good reflexes. He'd have probably put him in an uppercut on one of those leaps and put him to sleep. You know what I mean? So just all things considered, like I said, Eubanks being depleted, you coming up to his weight class to fight him, like it was just yours for the taking, and you just never took it. You know what I mean? So I thought that was kind of disappointing to see.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely was. You know what I mean? But one thing he can rest easy on is the fact that one, he will get paid a lot of money.
Mhm.
And on top of that, even though he did lose, of course, this is going to be one for the Bucks, especially for the UK. You know, they showed out. I wonder how much because they sold out in the arena. That I want to know what the sales were for this particular fight. You know what I mean?
Like
Even though
you
they
mean the pay
probably
per view?
pay-per-view, yeah.
Uh,
I really want to know from the zone, but it was a great turnout. Everything considered, phenomenal fight. It's definitely
yeah,
going to
yeah.
be one of
No,
my favorite fights for sure.
phenomenal fight, and I know there's a rematch clause. Now, I don't know if Chris Eubanks Jr. can make 160 again. I mean, he did make 160 this time,
Yeah.
but I don't know if he can do it again. However, from your standpoint, let's say you were Connor Benn, would you allow a catch weight after you just came up to 160 to fight, or like, because would you
If
walk
I'm
away
Conor Ben,
if you so you're Connor Benn? Put yourself in Connor Benn's shoes, right? You just lost. You have the rematch clause. You activate it. This guy is saying, okay, I can't make 160. Would you compromise and then do a catch weight above? I don't even know if it's a
no,
catch weight if it's
absolutely
above,
not.
or would you tell him no, it's 160 or nothing?
Yeah, it's 160 or nothing. It's quiet. It's over after that's quiet. Like if I can't, if I was Connor Ben, and as
Yeah,
a fan, to be honest, I think I don't want to see the rematch. I think I'm good with this.
yeah.
This was I had a full course meal and I'm full. That's it. We should just leave it
Mhm.
as it is. That's
Yeah,
my honest opinion.
no, yeah, definitely agreed. I'm good with just one of these. I don't really need to see another one. But for Conor Ben, I do think I'm not from the UK, so I don't really have the hatred for these fighters that a lot of UK people have. I don't really understand where it stemmed from. I get Conor Ben with the whole drug cheat thing, whatever. But if you guys in the comment section know why these guys are so disliked, feel free to educate me. But I don't really feel that disdain for them. You know what I mean? So I think Conor Ben, if anything, gained the admiration of some fans.
I
But
think
I'm
so.
very curious on what's next for him because he's not going to continue to compete at 160. To be honest with you, neither of these two guys can compete with the top guys at 160. I think Janibek, Carlos Adames, stop Chris Eubanks Jr., bro. That's my honest opinion, just based on what I saw. And Chris Eubanks just beat Conor Ben. Um, oh, I want to actually get into the scorecard, but after this, right? So Conor Ben, his last fight was at 150. Before that, he fought at 154. I don't think he can compete with the top guys at 154. That's my opinion. So, do you think for his career's sake, it's back to welterweight or nothing?
I think 147 is probably the best weight class he can compete at, but I would probably have him gradually move down to 147 instead of just dropping down completely. Because then, of course, that's going to hinder his performance at the 147-pound division for sure.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. And if you were, let's say, if you were to go to welterweight right now, um, would you go after the champion, or would you like
I would take a tune-up
take a
probably, and
tune-up?
then go after like a champion. If Mario Barros probably has the belt still, I'll probably go after him.
Mario's bar. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now, your scorecard, personally, I know that you had it 7-5 because we spoke about that.
Correct.
I personally had it 6-6. I jotted down the rounds. I think I texted them to you
Yeah.
of how I scored it. When I watched the fights, I scored them in my notes. So I had it 6-6.
Mhm.
Um, it ended up being, I think it was 8-4, right? 116, 112.
Right.
Could you also make a case for the 116, 112, or do you think that was a bit too wide?
I mean, I don't know. I had it 7-5. I think the clearest rounds, obviously, Eubank won was 11, 12.
112.
11, 12. I even gave him 10 as well. I feel like those are like the clearest rounds for me. I
Yeah.
mean, the in between rounds, right? Like I gave Connor 8 and 9. You can probably argue 7. There's
Hmm.
some weird rounds, right? That maybe you can lean towards. I think round 4 is probably one of those weird rounds. I gave it to Chris Eubank, right? But the
Mhm.
first 3 rounds, for instance, I gave to Connor.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't like. I wouldn't say. I think that might be a bit too wide, but
Mhm.
I feel like it was. I think it would have been a robbery if Connor would have won. If Connor Ben would have won, that would have been a robbery. I think that would have been a clear robbery, right? Because there's no way I feel like he won. A
Yeah.
draw, you can probably argue, right? But I feel like 7-5 is a good, I think is a good score, like, to be honest. But
Yeah.
maybe I'm just
Yeah.
being honest, biased. But I feel like maybe, yeah, 116, 112 might be a little too dramatic, in my honest opinion. If I'm being fair,
Yeah.
I think it was closer than that. You know,
Yeah.
I
I
think it's
think
closer than the 8-4.
I think consensus from most people is that Connor won the first 3 rounds. For me, round two was kind of close. I could have seen it going either way. So I'm not necessarily mad at 7-5 because if I had a 6-6 and I thought round two was close, could have went either way. I can see someone making the case that it was Eubanks and that would have changed my
Yeah.
6-6 to 7-5. You know what I mean? But I think the consensus for most people is that Connor won the first 3 rounds, right? So
Yeah.
let's just for the sake of argument, let's stay there. That would be me. Other than that, he only won 1 round in that entire fight. I just
And they
can't see.
probably gave it to him, what, maybe round. I think his 8th round was probably the strongest round,
See,
in my
see,
honest opinion. But I felt like he also won round 9 as well.
yeah. So you know, what I mean, and I mean, the score is the score, but I'm just like, when you kind of take a step back and put it in perspective, I'm just like, but I guess they, they probably didn't have him. I didn't look at what rounds they scored, so maybe they didn't have him winning the first 3 rounds. But yeah, I was a little disappointed in the scorecard. I thought it was closer than that. But I mean, at the end of the day, the right man probably won the fight. You know what I mean? I'm kind of agree with you. I don't really see a case that Connor could win. Like I said, personally, I gave them 6 rounds apiece. But yeah, at the end of the day, like the right man probably won. Because there had to be a lot of circumstances to go in Connor's favor for the fight to even be this close. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, if he would have got a knockdown or something, then I feel like that could have
Yeah,
easily
bro, he was
been
on the
probably.
verge so many times that he just could not. He just could not like follow through, bro. It was kind of disappointing to
Yeah, I
watch.
don't think he realized the thin thread that Chris Eubank Jr. was on. Chris Eubank was literally just fighting off of just pure will. Like, he was
Yeah,
stumbling, he was just throwing punches, and he fell into the ropes at one point. Like, I'm like, oh, for just nothing. I'm like, yo, this
yeah,
guy, like, if he was smarter, or had a higher IQ, and you could tell the experience between the two showed. It's just, but it is what it is. He just got to
yeah,
go back to the drawing board and go from there.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, tell us your opinion on the fight, guys. Do you want to see the rematch if the rematch clause is activated? Do you agree with the scorecard? How do you feel about both fighters? Were you impressed with the fight? Is it the fight of the year? Make sure you drop your thoughts in the comment section. Make sure you like and subscribe. 2 cents short of $1.